Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. My name is Lyriander, and welcome back to the Daedric Podcast. I am once again joined by our good friend Tom.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Today we'll be doing our lovely episode about the great historical figures in Skyrim. So let's get to it.
Yeah,
Yes.
when we say great historical figures, our
Like
first intention was to just go with heroes, and then we were like, oh, but with the heroes, they have to fight some cool ass villains, so why not include those? And then we were like, oh, but there are also like cool side characters, and so then from just the many interesting people you met throughout the Elder Scrolls games, we also decided to talk about also the ones that you only hear about, or maybe the ones that are not mentioned at all. And you can only read about them in the books in the games. Ranging from emperors to mages, scholars to near godlike beings like the tribunal.
Yes, exactly. So, quick, what were we doing in our playthroughs? I will actually be collecting the stones of Barenziah as quickly as I can, and Tom's Oblivion recording will be all about finishing the Fighters Guild questline and starting the what's it called? The Knights of the Nine.
Knights of the Nine, the DLC
Exactly.
with Pelinal Whitestrake and stuff like that. Yep.
Yes. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? First off, we have
Yes. Politicians.
Politicians.
I know. Yeah, I know that politicians are not something you have in mind when we said interesting historical figures, but no, these politicians are not like the ones we have, where the mere mention of them makes you vomit a little. These politicians are more like the noble kings and queens of our history, with riveting legends surrounding them, and with more drama than an average Twitch streamer house. We'll be talking mainly about the emperors and the empire, but also about some quote-unquote minor leaders of regional provinces, like, I don't know, Queen Barenziah. Queen Barenziah, what better figure to start with than the one who has personally met the most prolific actors in Tamriel's history. The first Queen of Morrowind, Tiber's friend with benefits, and an avid Khajiit enjoyer.
One way to put
it. That is indeed one way to put it. Born at the very end of the Second Era, and the first thing to note here is that, as always is in the case with the Elder Scrolls lore, the sources here are vast and contradict each other. And this is especially true with our Barenziah here, since there are two main biographies about her life. First being a biography of Queen Barenziah, which is the state and court approved version taught in schools. It's the widely available version that is like if you lived in a communist state, it's that manifesto. Like you can read that and no harm will come to you. And then there's the real Barenziah, which is said to be the real story of the Dunmer Queen. They say the author wrote this book whilst Barenziah was giving a confession of how things really were. Fun fact about this book, Barenziah tried many times to take it from the public, like basically burning the books, and many people, including Manny Marco, sought this book to blackmail Barenziah herself.
By the way, I just had to restart your recordings because I chose the wrong recording. But go on, yes.
Oh no. There are these two main books, but there's also a third book called The Nightingales, which mostly shines clarity on the events regarding Barenziah's involvement in the Thieves Guild and her relationship with the rogue bard Nightingale. Nightingales were originally a trio of expert rogues blessed by the Daedric Prince Nocturnal. And putting aside the controversies and the inconsistencies across the books, we can still say that Barenziah was and still is the most well-known ruler of Morrowind, who's met the majority of the good emperors. She lived for hundreds of years, she bared many children whom followed in her footsteps, and became a successful monarch. Although they say she was a helicopter parent, basically when she was too old for the throne, she put her son in charge and pulled the strings from behind the curtain. Now, some fun facts from the various books about her. She supposedly had an affair with Tiber Septim himself, and he got her pregnant, but fearing for how the child of the two biggest political forces of the time in Tamriel would completely destroy the political situation, Tiber forcefully aborted the child.
Ouch.
Also, yeah. Ouch. She was said to be quite promiscuous, preferring Khajiit men above all. She was also said to be somewhat magically gifted. And little fun fact with the Nightingales that I mentioned. She resided in the city of Mournhall, and under that city was a vast system of catacombs. In its very center was a very powerful artifact called Staff of Chaos. And the Nightingale Robar that I mentioned, there are again two possibilities. He was either one Dunmer from the House of Indoril, or he was Manimarco. Either way, he seduced Barenziah and stole the Staff of Chaos because of that.
Damn.
Yeah. And mentioning Tiber Septim, we have to talk about the Septims.
Yes. The fucking biggest dynasty in the
yes,
game.
it's the very most influential. It's the single most influential bloodline in all of Elder Scrolls.
Absolutely.
The Septim dynasty. So first up, the man, the legend, Tiber Septim. Now, we have here basically the Tamriel's version of Jesus, not in a literal sense.
No, he's a bit more violent than that.
Yeah, not in a literal sense. He is in no way, shape, or form an allegory for the Obi-Wan Kenobi lookalike, but he holds a similar position in the hearts of the people of Tamriel.
Yes.
And again, his origin, life, and the end of which is surrounded by mystery and contradicting information. Supposedly born in the far northern continent of Atmora, the home of the mighty and hulking Nords, he was a military man who started his career as a general of the Imperial Army in the service of a king who's been nicknamed Emperor Zero. He's that unimportant. Nevertheless, in that time, he was known as General Talos. Talos meaning storm ground in Elmofey. That's the ancient tongue. He fought to unify Cyrodiil, the centermost province of Tamriel and its de facto heart, and ultimately the continent itself, which he accomplished at the very end of the Second Era, and beginning his rule as the Emperor. He then ruled for 81 consecutive years and started a lineage known as the Septims. This man's deeds were so great, he began to be worshipped as a god of men, Talos, the ninth divine. These deeds were great and many, but to put him in perspective, he was a dragonborn, number one, and he had in control the Numidium, the towering Dwemer mecha robot.
Yes, basically.
So a man that can level mountains by shouting commanding a Godzilla-sized robot made out of bronze that was originally made to be a god.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's fun to be against in the lore.
Yeah, no, they really
So,
did stand a chance.
safe to say he conquered Tamriel with no problem.
Uh-huh.
But that doesn't mean he was unimposed. He had many enemies. And there were many assassination attempts against him. One assassination attempt got the closest. It was attempted, again, by a nightingale. It failed, but the nightingale managed to slit the throat of Tiber, rendering his voice, his power of the Thuum, which is the main tool of a Dragonborn, unusable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing to note here, we talk about before the podcast, is that virtually every emperor was a Dragonborn.
Mm-hmm.
From Saint Alicia to Reman Cyrodiil, I don't know about Versi de Shae.
No, he wasn't Dragonborn. That's why
he because he wasn't technically the Tamrielic emperors.
No, exactly, and it's also why he's sometimes not referred to as an emperor because
because he was a potentate.
Yes,
technically.
And, you could even say that the only ones who can be emperor of the empire are the ones that can use the Amulet of Kings, and the Amulet of Kings can only be used by someone who's Dragonborn. So
yes, so the Reman Empire, the Septim Empire. And later in 4th era, the what you call them?
The Mede dynasty. But
I don't think they were. Yeah,
no,
I don't think they.
You know how? You know that they weren't because the Amulet of Kings was destroyed at the end of the Oblivion Crisis. Remember?
Oh yeah, you're right.
So that was the end of Dragonborn rulers, and that's how you in Skyrim are truly the last Dragonborn.
Oh, that's something.
Yes, indeed. That's why you're so awesome.
We know for a fact that Tiber Septim used the voice, the Thuum, as the Dragonborn, but all his successors, all his descendants, also were Dragonborns, but there is no mention of them using the Thuum. Yes. On one part, this may be due to the fact that there is a distinct lack of dragons in Tamriel in the time, but it's never mentioned that Tiber himself fought or met a dragon.
No, that's true. It's one can argue that Tiber still learned from the Greybeards, who were very selective. They were very selective in their choice of who they teach. That's why there's so few people who actually can use the Thuum after the... What war was that? Somewhere after the Battle of the Red Mountain, basically.
Yes. Also, I had the theory that like the throat slitting of Tiber Septim was like symbolic, in a sense that he was the last emperor to be allowed to use the voice to gain control over the Ruby Throne.
Yeah. That's another one way of interpreting it. It's very true.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. We don't know. Like it's very very possible that they were just never trained in the art of the Thuums, and therefore they couldn't use the Thuum, even though they could have learned it. That's also why, like, if in Skyrim you actually get a nice guard dialogue who the Dragonborn can absorb the way to find out if someone is a Dragonborn is because they can absorb the soul of a dragon, and then the other guard says, I didn't hear about Tiber Septim killing any dragons, and then the response is, well, there weren't any dragons around back then, you fool.
Yeah, exactly.
So even Tiber Septim didn't face any dragons, which is actually funny because in Redguard, which takes place in Tiber Septim's time, there is technically a dragon that you slay
there is.
as Cyrus, but because Tiber is nowhere near that dragon when it dies, he doesn't actually absorb the dragon soul.
Yep.
So that one technically could have been resurrected.
Although there is also a dragon in Skyrim that is not resurrected. It's the very first dragon you fight.
Yes, well, actually, there's several dragons that technically never died and therefore still alive. Like
The one in Blackreach, I think.
Yeah, the one in Blackreach never died. The first dragon you slay, which is a very, I think I mentioned it before, but it's a very sad story because he basically hid away for thousands of years, and right when his leader returned, Alduin returned, and he was going to join him again, he managed to have the bad luck of running across the
running straight into a fucking dragonborn.
Yeah, exactly.
The being literally made to consume dragons. It's like
yeah, he's the worst.
Yeah, when you kill him, he's like, "What? Dragonborn? No!"
Yeah, exactly. And that's how, when you get into lore, you will realize how sad some of the characters are.
Yeah.
So,
back to Tyber.
Yes.
Though this is only one version of that story with the whole General Talos and stuff like that. There is another. Because, as I mentioned, he began to be worshipped as Talos, the god of mankind. He became the ninth divine, and this was taken as a dire offense by the elves, because they believed that no men were divine in a sense, because they were not of alien descent, and believing in Talos is in fact a heresy against the divines, the aliens.
Yes.
So they have their own version of Tiber Septim's story. This version talks about a man born in High Rock as Hjalti Earlybeard, depicted as a vile manlet with that manipulated his way up top, murdering his king and usurping his throne. And now again, with the things that we know for true, he had a son, Pelagius, who would follow in his footsteps, starting the Great Septim Empire. Also, the coin used in the Elder Scrolls games is called a Septim and has Tiber's head on one side and the Imperial Dragon crest on the other. Septim and now Talos as a god is not only Tiber Septim, but is in fact three men combined, or at least that this is the version that I believe in, because again, apart from Bethesda, no one really knows, and there are 10 versions of the truth that you can read upon. And it's like you're fucking choose your adventure, and so really it's choose your fighter.
Yeah. Choose your story to believe.
Yeah, choose your story, and this one makes the most sense because there are two other major players in Tiber Septim's story. One of them being Ysmir Wolfheart, the Underking, which is an ancient Atmoran High King. He ruled over Skyrim for an extremely long time, a war legend. He was once turned into a child together with the rest of Skyrim, and then he discovered a cure for the aging and reverted everybody back. But in the process, he turned so old, he died from old age, and he was resurrected 8 times. That's why he's called the Underking, and it's really complicated. And
just to interrupt for a sec, I can see that you have a wonderful bug in in Oblivion playthrough.
Oh yeah, is it the one with the floating people?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know what that is. And the worst thing is
the corpses.
Their bodies are invisible, and the sprites, the 3D models, are T-posing and fucking floating away.
Yeah. Anyway, go continue. Sorry.
Fire. and they keep moving.
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
I know.
It's horrible. So back to Wolfheart. Mentioning Wolfheart, we need to also mention Zurin Arctus, the Imperial Battle Mage in service of Tiber, who was the brain behind making the Numidium run again. The thing is that both the normal version of Tiber Septim's story and the heresy version from the elves talk about a betrayal against Wolfheart or Zurin, depending, where basically both of them die while trying to
make the Numidian work.
Make the Numidian work again. Now, as I said, with their forces combined, it is believed all together, or at least one of them, are Talos, the great god of mankind. That is also the Underking that I talked about. Who is either End or Zurin or Wolfheart.
Yes.
Also, Wolfheart and Tiber Septim might be the same person.
Yeah, even though they're supposedly different races. It's confusing.
Yeah, they're different races and from different timelines, and one of them might be an incarnation or an avatar of the other, and Wolfheart is supposed to be avatar of Akatosh, and Tiber is supposed to be avatar of... Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's that's this lore for you.
But nonetheless, Tiber's lineage goes on, and from Pelagius to Uriel's, we have the most important Septim after Tiber, which is Uriel Septim VII. Yes. He reigned for an astonishing 55 or 65 years, depends if you count being imprisoned in a different dimension by an evil wizard who has taken your identity and rules for you as a ruling yourself. Anyhow, he lived for nearly a century, and the year of his assassination marked the end of the Third Era. He had no legitimate children alive. Uriel is one of the most beloved rulers of all time. He was said to combine all the positive aspects of his predecessors, working hard to unite Tamriel once again. He was later betrayed by his Imperial battle mage Yagar Tarn, who, using the Staff of Chaos that he stole from Morrowind, that's the Barenziah thing from before, he imprisoned the Emperor in a pocket dimension of Oblivion, where time moved extra slowly. He did this because the authorities of the time had an artifact in their possession, the Amulet of Kings, that would tell them if the Emperor died. So Yagar Tarn, using illusion magic, disguised himself as Uriel VII, took his role as the Emperor and reigned for 10 years. After which he was defeated by the Eternal Champion, the hero of the first Elder Scrolls game, Arena. He met his... Uriel himself was freed from this prison and got back on the throne. And he met his end over 30 years later when he was assassinated during the events of the Oblivion Crisis.
And it's also...
Yep.
also in between, he's also the one that causes the events of the second Elder Scrolls Daggerfall, where he tells you to go to Daggerfall. In Morrowind, he's the one who sends the prisoner away to Morrowind, and then finally in the fourth one he also dies. But
yeah, he's assassinated in the beginning together with all his legitimate children.
Yes. You also kind of brushed over the fact that the reason he's able to, cause all these events is because he, with the power of the Amulet of Kings, he was able to actually see part of the future.
You're right.
And that's...
Like the Amulet of Kings is extremely powerful artifact. It's supposed to be a large soul gem, and I don't know what's in the soul gem. Is that I think it's again supposed to be like a piece of Lorcan or a piece of Akatosh or something like that.
Akatosh probably, but I'll get to that once we talk about the person who caught it.
That's true. That's true. So anyway, the assassination happens in the beginning of the fourth game, Oblivion, and with no legitimate heirs. Now, what do? Well, we have to find an illegitimate.
Illegitimate heir.
Illegitimate heir. Now, we found this nice folk named Martin. And yes, he is indeed here to save the day. Martin Septim, this poor man grew up clueless to his actual origins, living as a priest of Akatosh in the city of Kvatch. Being kept safe by undercover blades, the Dragon Guard. He's solely responsible for ending the Oblivion crisis, having sacrificed himself in the process.
Yes, and he destroyed the Amulet of Kings
Amulet of Kings.
Yes.
Yes.
Releasing an avatar of Akatosh.
Yeah, he basically transformed into a giant ass dragon and kicked Mehrun's Dagon's butt.
Yes. How was it that Sheogorath put it? Let's see. You are one of the greatest septums that has ever lived. Well, except for that Martin fella, but he turned into a dragon god, which is hardly sport.
It's like a lot. It always strikes me like Elder Scrolls is supposed to be a fantasy, but then you read like this shit, like fucking time traveling, giant robots stuff. Like, yeah, fantasy. Yeah.
Fantasy. Yeah. Oh, I just. Yes, my video ended because the game crashed. So.
Oh no.
Yeah, but now there's a second recording. Yeah.
Let's continue the Septim talk.
Yes.
The Septims after Uriel Septim, there were still some Septims, and there was some interesting before him. Namely, Potema Septim, also known as the Wolf Queen, a mad monarch described as unambiguously evil. She operated from her castle in Solitude, where she planned to overthrow her niece, who was an empress then. Her madness is said to be so strong she infected her successor Pelagius I. Her coup was successful, and she gave the Ruby Throne to her only known son Uriel III, who was not a Septim, although he was a Septim by blood.
Yeah, well, he was descended of it, but he wasn't the dragon blood.
Yeah, he wasn't the dragon blood. That's the one. She valued Uriel greatly because, despite the numerous attempts, he was the only child she managed to conceive. Her love for him was so great that she manipulated her husband, the King of Solitude, to write off his sons from previous marriages, and gave the first to the throne right to Uriel. The king died shortly after. Potema gained a great advantage in her way up to the throne. As mentioned, she is most well known for her rebellion against her niece. After her brother, the emperor, died, she accused the niece of being a bastard. That way, her son would go into power. Allied with the kings of Tamriel, she led 3 attacks, eventually overtaking the imperial city, crowning Uriel III as the emperor. Her brothers, though, were not as happy with this, and over the years managed to put down the unworthy new emperor, and Potema succumbed too, after a 10-year-long siege on Solitude, where she was barricaded, where she proven a dangerous foe with her use of conjuration and necromancy.
And actually, perfect timing, because I was currently doing the quest of Potema's resurrection. That you might have seen. Yeah, like, during that entire speech, like you saw me go to the ritual of Potema and everything. Perfect.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There is a cult in Skyrim believing that Potema and her bloodline is the last of the true Septims. and
Yes.
they try to bring her back to life.
Yes, to replace the weaker dynasty that is currently in charge.
Although not gonna lie, like Meath Dynasty is weak as fuck, so that would probably be better, even though she's mad.
Yeah, I mean, they would be able to probably do something about the elves, but the question is that the
Yeah,
best?
exactly. Like the meats are like the white gold conglomerate. It's not that good. Like I think that Potema would go like ape shit on the elves
Absolutely.
because she was a very fetal. Like when she was born, Uriel the Third, her grandfather, looked at the child and he like described her as a wolf pup ready to bounce or something like that.
Ready to pounce. Wow. Yeah, it's yeah.
So that was one of the more niche emperors. So why not talk about the more interesting emperors like Reman Cyrodiil? The now there is a misconception here with the naming. Reman Cyrodiil. So the Cyrodiil is named after him. No, many people think this. This is not true. He actually took the surname after the ancient alien name for the province that they gave it originally, which is Sirot.
Yeah.
So he named himself after the province he became a lord of. So you remember when I said that Tibra could be interpreted as an allegory for Jesus? Well, get ready for this guy, because born to a king and a spirit of a long dead empress, Saint Alicia, she was believed to be the land itself. He was found as an infant in a golden hill by shepherds with the amulet of kings embedded in his forehead. And then he was carried straight to the white gold tower and placed upon the ruby throne where everybody just stood in awe, because he was prophesied to be the leader some 2,500 years ago, where Pelinal Whitestrake was screaming his name like when dueling somebody. Yeah, I guess.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's infant with a fucking giant soul gem embedded in his forehead, and he was said to be imperial, but he is also revered as a god right now.
Yeah, well, he's revered as a god, a cultural god.
Yeah, he's a cultural god, but he's technically in the imperial pantheon together with like Saint Alicia and Morihausen and people like that. Yes, no, it's like whatever. He ruled the Cyrodiil. He took the name. He united the empire, stuff like that. As for usual,
that's a bit brushed over. He was, I think, the first person to actually unify all of the provinces.
Oh yeah. Wait, yeah, I think
so.
Alicia only like did Cyrodiil and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yes.
He was the very first one to like unify all of Tamriel into a single province. And that was with the help of the Akaviri, because there was an Akaviri invasion in the... This is first era, right? Yeah, in the first era, where he actually defeated them and even convinced them to help him build his empire. The Akaviri were the first ones to recognize Reman as a Dragonborn. Again, Dragonborn. They heard his mighty booming voice during the Battle of Pale Pass, took a kneel and swore loyalty, thus forming the Dragon Guard, the Blades. Yeah, and then was the Reman Empire with a few Remans and some less mention-worthy emperors. And after that came Verside Shai.
Yeah, I would like that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, near the very end of the first era, his reign basically began the second era, if I'm not wrong.
No. The assassination of Raymond III and Fastidio Shaye taking over, and he named himself Potentate, I think.
Yeah, Potentate.
And hailed in the second era. With that.
Yes.
With him taking over. And
so originally Fastidio Shaye was the Emperor's trusted advisor, and after Raymond III died, he took the imperial throne. He declared martial law, and he was, although he is a Sayesi from the Akavir, which is the far eastern continent. That we know literally nothing about.
Yeah.
He was a ruler for like 400 years, and there are no depictions of him whatsoever.
Yeah, no, nothing. But that's
Like
probably
400 years.
That's probably because he's not exactly liked all that much.
Yeah, that's true. He was not liked, and there were again many assassination attempts against him. Although he basically started the Fighters Guild.
No. His cousin started the Fighting Guild. He was the one that organized a sanctioned guild system, where like he was the one that allowed the Mages Guild to be part of the Empire.
Oh yeah.
That sort of thing. So like his cousin.
Also, he like built upon the Dragon Guard, eventually making it the Blade.
Yeah. Well, at first there was the Dragon Guard, then it became the Blades. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like originally Dragon Guard, and then I think that was with Tiber. It became the Blades.
Yeah, that could be. It's hard to say. But yeah, he introduced a lot of laws and systems that actually are still used today.
Yeah. He is the exchange student that nobody likes, but eventually proved helpful.
It's one way of putting it.
Yeah. Again, he was assassinated at the very end by a Moraktung assassin.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the Raymond III was also assassinated by a Moraktung assassin that he actually had hired.
Fastidio.
Yeah, Fastidio hired the Moraktung to kill Raymond III to take over the throne, and then he got assassinated by the same group. So, you know, he got what's coming to him. Alright, so that's for the politicians. Like, not all the politicians, of course. If we were to mention all the politicians, we would be here for 3 consecutive days. Exactly. So that's actually most of the things we talked about are things that happened in Cyrodiil, you know, in the Empire. But
yes,
if we want to talk about, you know, great historical figures, then of course we gotta talk about the epics in Morrowind, because Morrowind is home to a lot of stories of great figures. And who did many things, but at the top are definitely the figures that are related to the great War of the First Council and the climactic Battle of Red Mountain back in the First Era. Let me add that to the list. It's life updating that. Morrowind epics. There we go. So, the War of the First Council has 2 main sides. The Chimma, who later became the Dunma, and the Dwemer. So, starting off with the Dwemer, we've already talked to great length about them, but...
yeah, we had an entire episode about
exactly.
them.
So, I'm not going to talk about the species as much, but for centuries, the Nords had been trying to maintain their presence in what is now modern-day Morrowind, after the... in the earlier time of the First Era, they expanded their the first Nordic Empire into the region of Morrowind, And after the War of Succession in the... God, sorry, your Oblivion dialogue is very distracting. Hold on, let me...
Just mute it!
Yeah, let me put it down. Okay, okay, so after the War of Succession in the First Era, in 369, the North's presence in the other regions that they had taken over had become a bit weaker. The Dwemer and Chimmer living there had individually been unsuccessful in creating a decisive victory against them. And it wasn't until Dumak Dwarf King of the Dwemer clans and Indoril Nereva of the Chimmer clans united all of the respective clans that they were finally able to drive out the Nords from Norwend. Together they formed the first Council of Resdain and brought peace between the Chimmer and Dwemer and unprecedented prosperity to Resdain, which, by the way, is the name of the region which is now known as Morrowind. Both cultures of the Dwemer and the Chimmer, the Chimera, whatever you want to call them, experienced the blooming culture.
Chimera. It's like I guess it's from the word chimera, like combining.
Yeah,
chimera.
Exactly. They experienced a blooming culture, and which also led to another great figure amongst the Dwemer history, named Kagranach. You see, Lord Kagranach was the Dwemeri chief tonal architect during the time of the First Council. He was the foremost arcane philosopher and magecrafter of the Dwemer, and a pioneer in the field of mythopoeic forces, and devised tools with which to harness them with the intent of transcending the limits of Dwemer mortality. AKA, he was the master of tonal architecture, which is basically magic through sound. We explained that.
Yeah, we talk about this in the Dwemer episode, where we talk to great length about the tonal architecture, Numidian, and the Dwemer.
I guess you'll need your coin then.
Kagranach was the primary architect working on the Heart of Lorca, and responsible for creating the original brass god, Numidium.
Numidium, not
Numidium. Yeah, no, Numidium. It's misspelled there. The brass god Numidium. And according to some theories, which is basically most people, or like us at least, are pretty sure about that. His usage of the tools on the Heart of Lorcan caused the Dwemer to disappear from the face of Tamriel in First Era, in the year 700.
Yeah, because he himself, when he made it, didn't know what it's gonna do, and
he hoped that it.
he hoped. He made no experiments whatsoever and struck the heart of a literal god with full force with the things that could alter reality. Why?
I'll get back to that in a bit. So, next up we have the Chimera, or the Chimera, whatever. If you move back a bit in time, the leader of the Chimera clans was Indoril Nereva. He was actually the one that united all the separate clans and forged an alliance with Dumak and the Dwemer.
When we say the original Chimera clans, is it the same thing as the great houses of Morrowind?
Okay, the clans. Okay, first you had all the clans, and they were all separated. But then once the Nerevar combined them, some of the clans combined together to form the houses.
Oh, because there is a house in Indoril, and he's Indoril Nerevar.
Yeah, well, guess what? I've never said that they wouldn't use the name of one clan above all else.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, he is actually from a different clan. He himself is from the Mara clan or something.
There's
Mora. There we go. He's from the Mora clan, which is actually a very small clan. Mora clan, sorry.
Yeah. With human ancestry, that's something.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving back to what I was saying, General Nereva united the many disparate factions of the Chimera people and became their Hortator, their collective military leader. The Khmer had never been able to drive out the Nord, nor conquer the Dwemer in their independent cities. But the alliance forged between Nerevar and Dumak was actually, it relied heavily on the personal friendship as blood friends between Dumak and Nerevar. And even though the people they represented, so the Khmer and the Dwemer, generally despised one another, you know, they still made it work because of, you know, their leaders. That's how great they were, actually. I mean, like with Dumak, it's like not a lot is specified about what he did, other than, you know, unite the clans of the Dwemer. But he must have been quite capable if he was able to do all that, because they were very stubborn.
The thing is that the Nords, or at least like the Imperials, they have a sense of nationality, in the sense that they keep together because of their race, their culture. But with the Dunmer, or the Khmer before that, they go way beyond that. They form clans with their own individual cultures. That is extremely. You can see that really well when you look at the great houses like House Redoran, House Telvanni, House Indoril, House Dres, Hlalu, and Dagoth. They're all individual groups with individual rules and laws and cultures, and they do not like each other at all.
Nope.
So making them like combine and let alone like tolerate each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really nice feat.
Very true. So it also seems to have been Nerevar's idea to make use of the weakening of the Nords present after the War of Succession to seize opportunity for their rebellion and driving out all the Nords out of Morrowind. It's quite amazing. In this time of prosperity, Durmak actually gifted Nerevar the swords Hope, Fire, and True Flame as wedding gifts for his wedding with Almalexia, who I'll go into more later. Together, Nerevar and Dumak attended the coronation of the new Emperor of Cyrodiil at the time, as representations of Rendine. Nerevar actually had some quite impressive friends indeed. Sothasil was his teacher and closest advisor, whilst Nerevar's junior counselor and other teacher was Vivek. Sothasil acted as a mentor for them both. And Vivek and Nerevar together journeyed all of the entire north of Cyrodiil, of Tamriel, even going to Akavir, Yokuda, and Atmora. And yes, Yokuda was still available back then.
I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's scuba diving together for a trip.
No. The final important figure in his circle of friends is Vorin Dagoth, Lord High Counselor of House Dagoth, and by some accounts, Nerevar's most loyal servant. Now,
Badooms,
yes. Now let's go into the war. Actually, there is. We've previously mentioned that a lot of the lore is not directly stated, and the War of the First Council is just. There are so many different accounts on what happened that is hard to make one exact story. But let's let's see how we do it. So there's one theory that states that not all were happy with Kagranak's theories and experiments, and that's why Kagaranak started to do his experiments in secret. This could mean that Kagaranak is actually the leading cause of the War of the First Council, because it started after Nerevar found out about Kagranak's plans for the Heart of Lorkhan. Through unknown means, Vorin Dagoth came to know of Kagranak's plans for the Heart, which would be considered a blasphemous desecration for the Khmer people, who considered it a holy thing. especially inside their holy mountain.
How could they not consider the holy thing? It's literally a piece of their god.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Dwemer, the thing is, the Dwemer don't care for the Aedra.
Yeah, that is
Or
true.
the
Like
Daedra.
it's not like they don't believe in them. It's hard to not believe in a god where the gods are literally walking amongst
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
In a sense,
They
the
definitely
thing
know that
is
they
that
exist.
they just didn't think of them as like gods. They just think of them as really powerful beings.
Yes, they believe that the Dwemer themselves believe that one day they could actually achieve the same status. It's just as like they were just more developed, and that's something that they can achieve themselves. Anyway, so Dagoth informed Nerevar of these plans, and Nerevar went to face his friend and leader of Kagranok, King Dumak. King Dumak, knowing nothing about his High Craft Lord's project, denied the existence to his friend Nerevar, and then took great offense when Nerevar returned later to demand their designs for the Heart of Lorkhans cease. This is what began the War of the First Council, in which Nerevar reunited his people under one banner, because they kind of became more separated whilst he was traveling, and became surprisingly successful against the powerful technology of the Dwemer, because, as you might know, the Dwemer technology was beyond anything the other races had done, and he was still actually very successful. Like in the beginning, the Kimmer were kind of losing to the Dwemer, but then once they were reunited again, like they were owning them. And it all.
Which is strange because like when you think about it, the Kimmer or like the Dunmer even now, they don't have like any of the nice special stuff. When I say it like that,
No, and
like
that's
the Nords have the Flume to a
Yeah,
majority. Like the Imperials have their awesome emperors and
Yes.
basically the best tacticians.
Yeah, also the best resources.
They had the best resources. Then we have Black Marsh with their Hist.
Yes, exactly. So
Like-
the Dunmer really got good leadership, and supposedly Nerevar was as successful as he was because of the scouts of the Ashlanders, which is one of the clans. He made very good use of them anyway. So in the climactic battle of Red Mountain, the exact events are actually not certain. But the following things seem to, be consistently what happened. So Dumak Dwarf King died at the hand of Nerevar inside the Heart Chamber. Kagranok used his tools on the heart of Lorkhan out of desperation, which caused all the Dwemer to disappear. A wounded Nerevar, with the fight of Dumak, a wounded Nerevar makes Vivek Almalexia Sotasil promise to never use the tools on the heart, which supposedly they did out. Like the promise was made outside the mountain. The trio, Vivek Almalexia and Sotasil, convinced Nerevar to safekeep the tools for the return of the Dwemer. But as they return to the Heart Chamber to retrieve the tools from Lord Dagoth, who Nerevar had entrusted the tools to, they get into a fight. Lord Dagoth presumably dies, and the tools are taken by the trio, and then eventually Nerevar also dies. Several years later, Vivek, Almalexia, Sotasil break their promise to Nerevar and use the tools on the heart, slightly tapping it, which gave them their divinity, and they established the tribunal. At the same time, Azura curses them, the Khmer people, for this betrayal, turning them all into the dark-skinned Dunmer.
The thing to note here is that Nerevar himself is a chosen one of Azura.
Yes.
From the beginning. It is. I don't know the details, but if he's like, again, if it's like with the emperors being the avatars of Hakatosh.
Well, I mean, like back in those days, the Khmer people were like specifically well, they are the people of the three Daedra. One of them is I think it's Boethia, Azura, and another one I forget. But basically, that was their main worship. Like, and
yeah, that's true.
And then Nerva was chosen, similarly to how Alessia was chosen, which we'll get to in a bit.
End this little game.
So yeah, so the three members of the tribunal became living gods, and from their inception as deities around the first era, the year 700, to the latter half of the second era, the tribunal flourished and exhibited great heroism with their divinity. But it was actually Vivek, of all three, who exhibited the greatest heroism, who became the most popular with the people. Vivek distinguished himself as an unstoppable force and shrewd commander in the Fourscore War, in which he helped finally bring to an end with a de facto victory for the Dunmer using his diplomatic prowess, with him signing the servant truce in Paris. These are all things we don't really see ever. But he saved the Dunmer people from certain death on numerous occasions, such as when he flooded a small portion of Morrowind and killed the Akaviri invaders in the second era, year 572. In fact, the whole tribunal together repelled at least 2 Akaviri invasions from Morrowind. He was possessed with a unmatched, unique perspective on the course of history, thanks to his divinity, and Vivek was able to foresee the meteoric rise of General Talos to heavenly and earthly prominence, eventually leading him to cease hostile resistance and ally himself with Cyrodiil and Tiber Septim. Though he and the other tribunes ensured Morrowind maintained its autonomy. Wow. So, next member, Sotha Seal, is the most enigmatic member of the tribunal. Yes?
But he's my favorite.
Yes, he is pretty cool. He was a master in sorcery and Dwemer construction. He's actually the one who figured out how to use the Heart of Lorkhan to become living gods. He's that smart. He created the Clockwork City for a variety of reasons. One of them was to fix the flawed world the Daedra had created. So it's very strong. He was very strongly influenced by the Dwemer, if you want things. And even before his rise to divinity, he was already fascinated by Dwemer technology, like the tonal architecture. As a master of the dwarven automatons, he was actually able to create his clockwork machines, which work slightly differently. And he was actually even able to combine them into one, creating the factotums, which have a certain level of artificial intelligence, but they're only present in the Clockwork City.
Also, he is one of the antagonists in the Elder Scrolls Legends, the card game.
Well, it is presumably.
Yeah. Where he basically remakes the Heart of Lorkhan, but as a machine.
Oh no. Okay, so that's one of the things that was happening in the Clockwork City. That is, he was indeed trying to remake the heart, but the events of the card game take place after the events of Morrowind, so he's already dead by then.
Wait. What is that then?
Okay, so listen. The city basically continued his work while he was already dead.
Oh yeah, but like he made the Heart of Lorkhan out of machine, and that thing you kill in the Legends. Yeah, that's that part.
Yes. Okay, moving on to the final.
Also, I found when you talk about the Dwemers or the Chimera worshipping the 3 Daedras, it's Azura, Boethia, and Methala.
Ah, Methala, that's the one. Yeah. And after the tribunal was set up, they changed their religion to worshipping the 3 living gods, because obviously they had even more influence than the Daedra did. Which is another reason why Azura was like, fuck you. So, last member of the tribunal, Almalexia, is known as the source of compassion, sympathy, and forgiveness, the protector of the poor and the weak, and the patron of teachers and healers. She wielded her divine power for the protection and the benefit of the Dunmer for thousands of years. Sothasil largely remained aloof and mysterious, but Almalexia and Vivek took very active roles in leading their people through the First and Second Era. Her acts of amazing power and kindness are countless. Her blessing was said to do extraordinary things, like protect a person inflicted with corpus from suffering the disease effects. And corpus is one of the most horrific diseases that is available in Tamriel. We will talk about that in another video. And like Vivek, she actually wrote extensively, though she focused on children's fables and similar works meant to nurture the morality of her people rather than Vivek's more cerebral, spiritual guidance. In fact, Vivek's works, he actually already predicted that they would eventually lose their divinity, and therefore basically wrote a guide on what the people should do after, but also on how he should lose his divinity. It's quite cool. So the tribunal visited the Red Mountain annually to perform a ritual bath, replenishing their divine powers with the Heart of Lorkhan. As they approached the slopes of the mountain to do so in the Second Era in the year 882, they finally discovered the oversight that would end the world as they knew it. Daegath Ua was still alive, even more powerful than them, and he was awake. And by the way, Daegath Ua is just the name that Lord Daegath gave himself after being resurrected. He and his minions ambushed them and drove them away, decisively cutting off their access to the Heart of Lorkhan. For over 400 years, Daegath Ua's forces gained more territory, and he spread his influence, only barely kept in check by the ghost fence the tribunal had erected and maintained in an attempt to bottle him and his demons inside the Red Mountain region. As the tribunal's influence and powers weakened, Morrowind's society became more fragile. For instance, a simple slave revolt went unchecked and became the Arnesian War. Sothasil and Almalexia lost the tools that they were protecting, the Kagranek's tools that they were protecting, to Daegath Ua, causing Sotha and Alma to lose hope. And Vivek was basically standing alone against Daegath Ua, keeping up the ghost fence on his own. During the events of the Blight, which is, the game Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, the tribunal eventually lose their divinity after the Nerevarine destroys the Heart of Lorkhan, causing Almalexia to go insane, kill Sothasil, and then dying to the Nerevarine herself as she was trying to kill the Nerevarine, meaning that only Vivek survives after losing his divinity. And Vivek actually maintains a somewhat active role for several years after that as a saint rather than a living god. But after the events of the Oblivion Crisis, he defended Morrowind and then disappeared and is never heard from again. Or we haven't heard anything from him. Who knows if he's still alive.
And who knows if he actually lost his divinity?
He lost his divinity, that's for sure.
He did? He was still floating.
Well, yeah, but that's just because that's a technique he learned. So yeah, that's the epics of Morrowind. So yeah, let's talk about some other leaders that are available, like some epic figures. And if you want to talk about leaders, then of course we gotta start with one of the most influential humans in the history of Tamriel, Saint Alessia. Born as a slave under the Aelid rule, she prayed to the Aedra and Akatosh for salvation from the Daedra worshipping aliens. She received 3 visions, which she used to liberate herself in Sancretor, where she established her holy city and started an open rebellion known as the Alessian Slave Rebellion. With help of the Nords and Perennial Whitestrake, who we'll get to into a bit, she managed to take the White Gold Tower from the aliens and declared herself the first empress of the new Cyrodiilic Empire, and that is the establishment of the First Empire, also known as the Alessian Empire. As proof of this claim, some claim that Akatosh gave her the Amulet of Kings, which was to be tied to, all descendants from her. It's actually interesting because she was given the amulet, but she wasn't, like, some call her the first Dragonborn, but others say like she's not really the first Dragonborn.
I think she was the first Dragonborn. That's the whole thing. That
Yes.
she basically prayed to Akatosh, and he gave her the power of
Yes.
of the Dragonborn, and Kinnarev sent Pelinal
Yes.
to her aid.
Yes. The thing is,
Pelinal, and then somewhere Morihaus also was a thing.
the thing is, the confusion lies in how you use the word Dragonborn. She is Dragonborn. She was like blessed by Akatosh, but she wasn't, the dragon soul absorbing kind of Dragonborn, because the first one who did that was Mirak.
And how you deal with the dangers
Yep.
ahead of you.
So
Maybe they didn't necessarily
You may
have the connection to the dragons. It
no, she
may
was just
have
blessed
been
by
just,
Akatosh.
Yeah, I get it, but there were no dragons then, so the Dragonborn not necessarily only has to do some things with dragons. It
No, exactly.
may just be like a leader, like leadership skills and stuff like that. Who knows?
No, I think
the
it's,
thing
it's,
is that-
I think it's the descendants of the descendants of Saint Alessia were she was blessed by Akatosh to have the dragon blood, whereas if you look at Mirak's dragonborn kind of thing, it's more of a something in the blood. Who knows? It's a bit more complicated.
And
it seems.
Yes. Anyway, Saint Alicia, together with Pelinal Whitestrake and Morihaus, did the ye olde Alessian slave rebellion. They repelled the aliens, virtually slaughtering them all, together with Umaril, the sorcerer king of the aliens. The thing to note here is that all three of them, Pelinal Whitestrake, Morihaus, and Umaril, were technically Ada. They were of divine origin. And every one of them, apart from Morihaus, both Pelinal and Umaril both died in the Saint Alician's slave rebellion.
Yes, Alessia survives for a bit.
Alicia survived. She ruled for a time and eventually died. I think she was she assassinated? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. What I also want to mention before we finish her off is that she is the one who created the religion of the Eight Divines, which
8 divines and also the one divine, which is
the thing is at first they had like the Eldmeri religions, and then there was the Nordic religions, and the Nords didn't want to have anything to do with the elves, so she basically combined them and created this new system of specifically those 8 Aedra. The planets.
But there was also the one, literally with a big O, which was a supreme spirit worshipped by the Alessian order. It's a strictly monotheistic cult devoted to a singular, a single god, and there are temples of him in Cyrodiil.
Yes, yes, the Temple of the One.
Temple of the One, yeah, which again contradicts each other, but there is the thing that it might be Alicia herself because she was a Shazar or a Shazarine, which is Shazar is an avatar of the divine in Cyrodiil. It's a Cyrillic version of Lorcan. Lorcan being the god of Nirn itself, basically.
Yeah.
And Shezar is Lorcan, but like for Cyrodiil.
Yeah.
It's like Shore being the the Nordic version.
Yeah. She was supposedly on her deathbed. She was sainted by Shazar, and some say it was Akatosh. And her soul was placed in the central stone of the Amuleted Kings, thus forging Akatosh's covenant with the men to protect Tamriel from the forces of Oblivion.
We not complicated.
No, totally not. And to make it more complicated, Belharza, the man bull, Alicia's alleged son with the demigod Morihaus, succeeded her as second emperor of the Cyrodiil. You know.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like Morihaus was a demigod, and he was said to be a winged bull.
Yeah, it's
like straight up winged bull. But he has a statue in the Imperial City, which is just a normal dude.
Yeah, some of the it's the same with the Taisi to be called snake people when they're just humanoids.
Yeah, but there is like depictions of them as like actual snake people, and their masks are like snaky.
It's possible that he also just wore an armor or something that made him look like a winged bull. Who knows?
And we can forget the fact that he is a demigod, and like when there are mortals that can change from man to a wolf, it's not that of a stretch that there is a near godlike being that can turn from a man to a bull.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, let's.
So we should probably move on. We don't have much time.
Oh really? Only? Oh no, we have 20 minutes. Come on. Okay, let me quickly quick fire some of the other great leaders that were present. You have Isgrimor, who was one of the earliest settlers from Admora in Skyrim, and the leader of the 500 companions of the return after the Night of Tears, decimating almost all elves in Skyrim and Solstheim, followed by building the city of Windhelm. He's also, strangely enough, the first known human to transcribe Nordic speech using elven principles of writing, making him the first human historian. Which is kind of random.
Yeah.
And then one other Nord ruler that we wanted to mention was Olaf One-Eye, who is known for the capturing of the dragon Numenix and uniting Skyrim after the War of Succession, which we also mentioned.
Well, you don't even need to add.
Speaking of funny Nords, should we talk about Ulfric?
I mean, it's debatable whether he is like a great historical figure, but I mean, he did do some cool things. I mean, he's one of the few that learned how to use the Thu.
That's true. He is one of the few successful greybeard like students.
That also didn't stay as a greybeard.
Yeah, he just learned the fun stuff and then he left because the way of the voice wasn't for him.
Yeah, no, it was also he felt like he had a responsibility towards his lineage. The
Norse, yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean, there's not much to say about Ulfric. To be honest,
yep.
I mean, he was, All right.
Should I talk about the Great Wizard?
No, I can. I mean, I wrote it, so.
Okay, whatever.
So we've already discussed Menemarco and his rival Vanet Galerion, who both had a huge impact on the world of Mundus, in a previous podcast about Menemarco. But one wizard we have seemed to have completely neglected to mention was the great Shalidor. The Archmage Shalidor was an immensely powerful wizard in the First Era, who had an understanding of magic few have ever matched, and his numerous but scattered writings are still highly sought after. There are stories that he created the city of Winterhold with a whisper, he stole the secret of life from Akatosh, and even somehow single-handedly fought against the Dwemer clan Rorcan and their legion. Whether or not these tales are entirely true is up for debate, but what is true is that Shelador wanted to create higher standards amongst mages as to separate them from the common castes. For this purpose he created the College of Winterhold, and some argue he also created the formation of the Schools of Magic, though others claim it was Valen Galarian who did that. It's actually interesting because both of them are alive at the same time as well. Eventually, Shelador holed himself up in Labyrinthian, where he constructed the namesake Labyrinth to test new archmages, and devoted the rest of his time there studying and researching. The maze was actually built into the already present ruins of Bromjuna, the once capital of the Dragonflight. During this time, he wrote massive amounts of notes and musings, which are still looked after. He wrote them about like various topics, like a large variety of topics. His great maze was said to contain Glamoral, the secret of life he supposedly stole from Akatosh, and it is with the Glamoral that he was able to produce such a practically unbelievable amount of writings. It's like some even claim that basically the Glamoral gave him multiple lifetimes to work with. As in not just like making his life longer, no, like having separate lifetimes at the same time to work.
Is it the same Glamoral as the Glamoral Witches?
It's possibly that they have been named after that, yes. But they seem further unrelated. I mean, I'd have to look into it, but who knows. At some point, Shelador came into possession of the island Yevia by trading a minor artifact with the High Elves, and he turned it into a retreat and sanctuary for all mages. He then traded the island away to Sheogorath to get the Folium Discognitum, a tome of knowledge which he had been obsessed with obtaining. But he later came to regret this deal, and he felt like he'd been tricked by the Mad God. And with the help of the Vestige during the events of Elder Scrolls Online, Shelador was able to regain possession of the island, and he gave access to it for the Mage Guild to use. And so we have a nice ritual. Alright, that was the Great Mages. You want to finish with Pelinal and Umbra?
We could, absolutely. So, as we talked about Pelinal Whitestrake, Pelinal was a major figure in the Saint Elysian slave rebellion. He fought alongside Morehouse as the champion of Queen Elysia, and he is named, sometimes known as the Immortal Legendary Hero. He was in the possession of the Crusaders' relics, which were given to him by the 8 divines, each of them giving him a piece. With their power combined, he was basically unstoppable. And the thing is, he was not good. He was an absolute homicidal maniac. He went full World War II on the Aelids.
Yes, it's.
What?
I mean, like when he was introduced, like when he first met Alessia, he walked into her camp completely covered in alien blood. So.
Yeah. Also, Pelinal could mean Star-Made Knight, which a lot of people interpreted, like the fans interpreted as they think of him as a time traveling, like a Terminator figure, which could or could not be true. Although it's one of the more favorite theories about him. Nevertheless, he went on a completely mad rampage, going through the Aelid kingdom, slaughtering one settlement after the other, and fun fact, he met a Khajiit caravan, or was it a Khajiit town? I don't really know. But the Khajiit call him the White Snake because they say that he was slaughtering Khajiits because he thought they were elves until they like stopped him. They were like pleading, please, please, we are not mer, we are Khajiit, look at us, we have fur.
Maybe it was those elf-looking Khajiit. That's
yeah,
why.
maybe it was that one very specific breed.
Yeah.
And as I said, both Pelinal and Morihaus themselves, they classified themselves as Ahada. And some believe that Pelinal was an incarnation of a god. By god, they mean Shazar, the shore Lorcan figure. And he was sent as a champion to help mankind. And again, Pelinal also carried the weapons that he was given by the 8 divines, the Crusaders' relics. They were described by the people like strange weapons of unknown origin and unknown function. And this is again one of the things that led people to believing that he was sent from the future or something. Because it sounds like he was wielding a fucking light machine gun or something.
But no, really, he was like just using the sword of the Crusader and the mace of the Crusader, which
Mace of, yes.
I mean, like what you're doing.
But then
like,
there's a passage in the book that they like that he took off his cuirass and there was nothing but light.
Yeah, who knows?
And
maybe he was
when he was fighting Umariel, that he was they like cut him up into pieces. He was defeated, Pelinal was defeated, and they cut him up into pieces, and all the pieces were still sentient and like talking. And after his death, like Umariel somehow died, and Morihaus found the head of Pelinal, and they talked for like a week.
Like you do. Yeah, it's a bit epic the way he is. And that's why like
Pelinal slew Umariel, and then the other elf kings like went on a rampage and slaughtered him and cut him into 8 pieces in the mockery of the 8 divines.
Yep. And then yeah, you're currently doing the questline to recover his pieces.
Yes. I don't know. I didn't check. I just recovered the helmet, so I hope there is not a head inside it.
He's like, oh, finally found the helmet, and then you put it on. It's like, why can't I put it on? Oh god.
And then it starts fucking speaking to me.
No, he was long dead.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like what you're doing with this questline is that you're so you have Pelinal who died, and then a long time after that, there was a group of knights, the Knights of the Nine, who wanted to recover all of the pieces that had been lost, like all the relics, and they got pretty far, but then they fucked up, which you will learn over the course of the questline. Or actually, you can talk to them, and then at this point, and then you learn. And now then you are going to redo what they did, except better.
Yep. So next up, we have Umbra. Now, Umbra is a very interesting subject because there is actually a lot of to talk about here. Because Umbra, as origin, is a Daedric artifact. It's a black sword, and its sole purpose is to trap souls. And it was created by a witch at the request of Clavicus Vile. Clavicus Vile is the Daedric prince of unfair. It's like he's the terms of service.
Yeah, you know the contract that you have to. He's basically the Daedric Prince of contracts, And monkey's paw, fucking people over, that sort of thing.
Yep, that's the one. So basically, the sword itself is he gives it to people and it's like, oh, it's gonna help you trap souls, but the thing is, it's gonna trap your soul too.
Yeah.
and the sword has a mind of its own, and it like begins to seep into you and transform you into, and then you start calling yourself Umbra. And you basically transform into this being, and you go into a rampage and start murdering people, and then somebody slays you, finds this sword, and you start using it, and the cycle continues.
That's kind of what happens in Oblivion as well.
Yep, you find a guy that calls himself Umbra.
A girl, technically, but
a girl. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this time you are told by Clavicus Vile to retrieve the sword, and then you can choose to actually give him back the sword, or keep it for yourself. Yes.
The thing is that the Umbra wasn't that powerful, but there is an accident that happened when a particularly clever man that got, or like capable man that got trapped by Umbra, decided to actually trick Clavicus Vile, and he went into his sphere and like cut a piece of Clavicus himself and ran away with it. And now Umbra is way more powerful because he like basically became a divine in a sense, like not a divine, basically a part Daedra, and that's why Clavicus wants it back so badly, because it's a piece of him, and like a sizable piece.
Well, yeah.
And the man that has the Umbra, he like, then there's the whole floating city of Umbriel.
Yeah. This is all the events that happen in one of the real-life books.
In the books, yes.
Yeah, real-life
It's
books.
it's like a real-life novel, like 400 pages or whatever.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, I didn't read it, I probably should.
Well, I didn't read it either, so... I'm just gonna look forward to you doing this quest line, by the way, of Knights of the Nine, because I can already imagine you getting frustrated of how hard some of the puzzles are.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So, anyway, that's I think that's it. Like if you guys can think of any other like important figures that spring to your mind, don't be afraid and to put them in the comments.
Yeah, put them. Yeah, well, right now there's not a lot of viewers, but in the YouTube comments, go ahead. we do read them, even though they're not active. So yeah, let's see. Your recording is close to ending, I think.
Yes, yours too. I think we
No. Mine is still gonna go for a bit longer, I think. You're like less than a minute, but mine is like I didn't get all the stones. That's why. Oh, actually, it's quite close now that I think about it, because now I'm like trying to get the messenger to trigger, so that I can get the mysterious note, so that I can get into the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary to get the final stone of Barenziah. But let's see.
That's the last one in the Dark Brotherhood, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, in the order that I got them. Yes, this last one. Well, I think I'm currently going to the what's it called? Clan store. Clan Shadow Shield, but that's for the quest of the Thieves Guild.
Yeah.
So actually, I go through that whole quest and then go to the Dark Brotherhood. Then get picked up by.
And only for a helm that's gonna sit in the Thieves Guild and like, oh hello, and nothing.
Oh no. Nothing. I wanted to actually do the whole quest, but I couldn't do it in time. But you do get Prowler's Prophet, a nice perk, which doesn't seem to do a lot, except when, well, unless you, if you're a looter like me, then it does a lot because
Oh, of
you
course
basically
will.
get, I think,
You're accusing me of
50%
Now,
chance
just a
for
moment.
any container
I
to
had no- It's a
have a
good-
gemstone in
their
it,
leader,
and sometimes
Lin-
multiple ones.
No, he even
So
Uh-huh.
if you go
I
around
used
looting just any
when Lin was
old thing,
in
you will
fact,
get so
I
many
proved to be
gemstones
quite an-
uh,
Lin-
that
Once
you will
you're done
become
with all
filthy
this,
rich
come
if you
back
sell them.
anytime and
And that's
I
the
mean,
yeah. Yeah, what were you saying?
is it worth it? It's not like money in Skyrim was ever a problem.
In the beginning it is, but yeah, now later
Yeah,
on,
in the
it's just-
beginning you're gonna go around the map collecting the
Yeah.
unusual gems.
No, that's true. It's just like, let's see, like when do you use money in Skyrim? That's the main question. Because I think in the beginning, you know, having beginner equipment, that's when you use it, and then later on, you basically use it to buy things like spells and weapons with enchantments that you still need to disenchant, and then. Like the only thing that you really use it for at the end, near the end of the game, is to buy, you know, ingots and ores that you can use to make whatever you want. And even then, you know, you kind of stop at some point. At some point, you've built everything. You've made your entire arsenal of weapons and whatnot. So yeah, I do want to kind of like keep my playthrough going because there's something cool that happened in the. What's it called? The little cabin that you are brought to during the Dark Brotherhood.
You can just fast forward.
No, I can't actually. Wait, maybe if I open it via the filter, I can. Hold on. That's this one, I think. No. That's the wrong document. This one. Okay, yeah. Let me pause this one then. Then open this one. Too many things. Whoa, that's not for you to see. This one. This one? There's too many. Why is it all separated? Oh, yeah, just OBS is being weird. Change. Why is it doing that? Hold on. You talk about something in the meantime.
I'm like, what the fuck is he what the fuck is he doing? Well, the thing I actually wanted to talk about is what are we gonna do for the next podcast? Because we talked
Yes.
about how every podcast ending, like a podcast episode ending with 5 is gonna be the beginner guide, because our 8th episode was the beginner's guide where we explained the basics of the universe and stuff like that, like the Daedra, the land of Tamriel and its provinces, and a very brief history, and the events of the games themselves. And brief, yes. And we are planning to do basically 15th, which is the next one. It's gonna be again the beginner's guide.
Yes.
So
What
do you have in mind for that one?
I wanted to. I think it's a good idea to go through the beginnings of the various. Like, wait, hold on. I wrote it down properly. Let me.
Like we plan the whole
Yes,
route we
yes,
take in the
yeah.
time.
So how do you create your character in the different games? Like, what is it? Like, what do you need to keep in mind when you create a character in Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, and Morrowind? I think. Maybe. Yeah. No.
Maybe even Daggerfall.
No,
We
I was
have
like,
that.
no. I was actually thinking maybe even Elder Scrolls Online, but
Oh, you have online?
I have online, yes. But I'm not sure if
I did.
we want to do a recording of that. So the fun gimmick of that is that normally we have I'm the one playing Skyrim and Tom is playing Oblivion. But for this, creating a character thing, we could turn it around for a bit, and I'll make a character in Oblivion, and then Tom makes a character in Tom, which you kind of pre-plan what exactly we're doing in each of the playthroughs, so we can show what we're actually talking about properly.
Well, character creation in Skyrim is virtually cosmetics only, so...
Yes, it's very true. But there's a few racial things, and that's why we can actually start.
Yeah,
with
that's
we
true.
can
That's
we
true.
can start.
There's no racial things that we can talk about, like the natural inclines.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Each race, like,
And we will. That's why we'll start with explaining things in Skyrim, and then go to Oblivion and Morrowind. Like if we get more complicated, the further back we go, basically. Here's the fun thing that I want to show you with what happened here. So you have to kill one of these prisoners, and you can also choose. Yes, and you can actually kill. You can also kill all of them with the kills. But there's something that happened that I didn't expect, which you will see in a bit. And let's see if you know what it is that happened by looking at it. You're looking at it right now, right?
Oh, no, I'm reading. Give me a second.
Come on.
Yep.
Yeah, you got
Watching.
it? Yes. You see fire breath? Okay, here you go.
Fire buff, yeah.
And voila.
Still in the menu.
Alright,
You kill everybody and then wyverns, yeah.
Yeah, but all three of them? Like, damn.
Yep.
And Asteroid
Like,
gets
you don't
aggroed
even
by
have to
it.
kill them at once. I just killed all of them, like,
One at a time. Yeah, I know,
separately.
but it's fun to do all of them at the same time. I just
Yeah,
didn't
that's
expect Astrid to immediately aggro on my wyverns.
Yep. No,
And I was
it
like-
would be bad if they actually killed her.
Yeah, no, exactly. Then it's like, whoops, I have the wrong quest. But it turned out okay, she survived. Even though they explode. So, okay, yeah, that was the end of it. And after this, yeah, there's like a brief me trying to quickly go to the Dark Brotherhood to get the final gem. And then it crashes.
Yep. Again.
Again, yeah. So yeah, no. Next week we'll be doing a beginner's guide on how to start your character. That's what.
Yay.
So yeah, I hope you're looking forward to that. And well, I guess till next time, eh? You got anything to say?
Yes. I hope you all are enjoying the new year, 2021. Now, the last year was not as good, so let's hope this one is gonna be better. So far, it's not better.
No,
So-
look at it like this. All the bad things that are happening right now are just consequences of what happened from last year. So technically, it's still part of last year. You know?
Oh yeah, that's right. It's still resonating. It's gonna subside.
Yeah, there you go. The game crashed. So, thank you all for watching. Bye bye.
See you guys. Bye.